on how do you become great in God's kingdom. Verse 35, let's finish this up. Here goes. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus saying, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask." And he said to them, "What do you want me to do for you?" Verse 37, Mark 10. Then they said to him, "Grant us that we may sit, one on your right hand and one on your left in your glory." Now, as you know, it seems kind of commonplace now for the disciples to be arguing about who's going to be greatest in the kingdom of God. This could have been quite a heated debate, especially among men. Anytime you have a bunch of guys talking about who's the greatest or whatever, Thomas, be the greatest? Doubt that, man. No, what would it be? Who's going to be the one that sits on his right and on his left? And notice that this verse comes on the heel of Jesus Jesus telling his disciples that, hey, we're going to Jerusalem where I'm going to be crucified, where I'm going to die for the sins of the world. A couple interesting views on this passage to point out. Many people that follow Jesus, his followers, thought that Jesus was going to institute his kingdom immediately on the earth. This earthly kingdom and start ruling, kick out the Romans. And so in light of this, James and John could have made their request. The other viewpoint would be this: hey, get your requests in while he's still around. I don't know if you did this when you were kids, like you talked about, hey, if I die, or if you die, can I have your PlayStation? Like that kind of thing, Hey, get your requests in, get your requests in and ask, hey, Lord, when, I know you're going to go and die, on the cross, but have us sit on your right hand and on your left hand. This first place of authority and second place of authority. And Jesus responds to James and John, and he doesn't deny that he'll be seated on a throne. Jesus doesn't deny that he'll be seated on a throne and that he will have his kingdom. It's not like Jesus said, hey, sorry guys, I don't even know what you're talking about. Verse 38, Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink and be baptized with the baptism that I'm baptized with?" And they said to him, "We are able." So Jesus said to them, "You will indeed drink the cup that I drink, and with the baptism I am baptized with, you will be baptized. But to sit," verse 40, "on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it is prepared." Guys, James, John, you don't know what you're asking. There's a different law ruling the kingdom of God than that which rules the kingdoms of earth. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink? What does that mean? Well, the night before Jesus was crucified, as he sweat great drops of blood, he said, "Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me." This was a term to use what was about to happen. What was this cup that he was about to metaphorically drink from? Crucifixion on the cross. Let this cup pass from me. But Jesus said, "Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done." This cup was referring to Jesus' death. So, if we use that little break the code scenario, hey guys, are you ready to die? Are you ready to die? Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, and I quote, he says, "When Christ calls a man, he bids him come and die." End of quote. Die to self. Die to the things of this world. It may even lead to you losing your life. However, Matthew 16:25, Jesus said, "Whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." James actually, this guy, these two brothers, James would be killed by the sword ordered by King Herod, Acts chapter 4. John would be sent to Patmos where he would die exiled to this island. In verse 41, when the 10 heard it, the other 10 disciples heard it, they began to be greatly displeased with James and John. And I don't think they're probably too happy about it. Their indignation was not righteous indignation, but rather it would seem stem from their own competitive ambition. Oh, prison rules, hey? You're going to go to Jesus and ask about where you're going to sit and which place you're going to have. But Jesus calls them to himself and said, "You know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them." The disciples would completely get this. The Romans, man, they were that arm of iron. They crushed anything that was in their way. And they loved exercising their authority. Submit, they would wield their power over people, power tripping. So, under Roman law, if a Roman came up to you, pulled out a sword, put his sword on your shoulder and said, "Hey, carry my bag," you would have to carry his bag for 1 mile because of Roman law. 1 mile. So you could just be like, I'm tired of carrying this. You randomly, you come here, carry my bag. And you would have to do it. But Jesus said in Matthew 5:41, whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him too. So Jesus says, here's the way the world operates authority, flexing their power, yet it shall not be so among you. Verse 43, but whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant. And whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. So how do you become great in the kingdom of God? Become a servant. In John 13:15, Jesus said, I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. John 13:16, most assuredly I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. Jesus got down, girded himself like a slave, washed the disciples' feet, and he was their master. And he says, a servant is not greater than his master. You want to be great in God's kingdom? Learn to be a servant of all. And any time in a church with Christians you find envy and self-seeking, people wanting to be in authority, there's a major problem. It's unbiblical, it is antichrist, and it is not to be so for the believer. Every evil thing exists in the place where people want to be in charge. I want to call the shots. I'm going to do this. I'm the one running the show. We need to be careful of that. Jesus said, the servant is the greatest.